Buddhist concepts of heaven and hell. One of the oldest questions that has challenged humanity is the question of life after death. Where did we come from, and where will we go after we die? Along with that, we wonder about the purpose of living a good life. Firstly, most people agree that living well is more difficult than living badly, and without genuinely good reasons, we would naturally prefer to do the easy thing. In my opinion, this is why religions exist, along with concepts of heaven and hell. Good behavior is promised eternal bliss in heaven, while bad behavior is warned with eternal punishment in another place. With the dual weapons of promise and threat, people are forced to behave in a way that benefits society. However, at a higher level of mental development and spiritual maturity, people are driven to live a noble life because it elevates their dignity, and right behavior brings its own rewards. To do this, people are guided to develop a full understanding of their inherent nature and realize that their highest potential is not driven by fear of punishment, but by the long-lasting true happiness gained from pursuing a noble way of life. The purpose of this teaching is to encourage people to live an honest life for themselves, which naturally protects and ensures the well-being of those around them. This second method is what the Buddha taught. According to the Buddha, merely following religious rules to enter heaven is not enough. One must diligently practice to develop a tranquil mind because all actions are rooted in the mind. It is through controlling the mind that we can control our actions. When the mind and body are balanced and harmonious, true understanding leading to ultimate happiness can be achieved. According to the Buddha, heaven and hell are not places where people are assigned after death, but attitudes of the mind that we can experience right now. Simply put, if you are happy, you are in heaven. If you are suffering, you are in hell. Of course, it's not just that simple. So let's ask ourselves what heaven and hell mean. Let's explain the nature of hell and heaven using common knowledge without relying on beliefs, traditions, or scriptures. We should not depend on traditions, beliefs, or scriptures to understand the truth. Of course, there is some guidance in religious books. It depends on how we interpret these concepts. Some people believe that there are eternal heavens and hells. Therefore, according to them, those who do not follow their religion have no chance of enjoying the bliss of heaven or escaping hell. Based on this, it seems they hold a unique monopoly on heaven. But the Buddhist concept of this issue is entirely different. Whether we have a religious label or not, there is no difficulty for us to experience heavenly joy if we live a noble and reasonable life. According to the Buddha, heaven is not reserved for members of a particular religion. It extends to anyone who can live a noble life. Some people try to scare us by saying we will lose our chance of being born in heaven if we do not follow their religion. Alternatively, they threaten us by saying we will be condemned to hell if we do not accept their religion. They try to spread their religion by creating fear and ignorance. Buddhists have not chosen this tactic to spread Buddhism for over 2,500 years. The Buddha did not introduce heaven to create temptation, nor did he create fear of hell to promote Buddhism. He did not deny that the goal of Buddhists is to be born in heavenly realms to enjoy bliss. Many religious leaders promise others that they will achieve everything after death, but these leaders have little to offer for current life. They generally encourage their followers to endure suffering here because nothing can be done, but they promise eternal happiness in heaven. They are ready to make such promises because they know very well that no one will return from the other world to report to them that the promises were unfulfilled. During the Buddha's time, some people who wanted to enjoy heavenly bliss after death came to the Buddha and told him that as householders, they found it difficult to live a purely religious life. As secular people, they wanted worldly pleasures and urged him to explain how to attain happiness without turning away from the material world. The Buddha then asked, "Why must you wait to experience heavenly bliss after death? You can experience heavenly bliss while living in this world. If you know how to conduct your life in the right way, you can experience heavenly bliss here as well as after death." There are other similar suttas where the Buddha preached about this heavenly life. Regarding the concept of hell, He also mentioned in a sutta that we should not think that hell is somewhere beneath this earth, at the bottom of the ocean, or beneath the base of Mount Meru, a mystical mountain considered the largest in this world. In the Buddhist context, heaven and hell are not specific areas or places created by someone. When people talk about heaven and hell, they say heaven is above and hell is below. But if we dig through this earth to the other side, I think we won't find hell. According to the Buddha, everyone can experience heavenly bliss if their mind always abides in the four divine abodes, Brahma Viharas, right in this life: loving kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, sympathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. To be happy, people must develop right view to see that we exist only in relation to all other living beings. This means that to be happy, one must ensure the happiness and well-being of others. When we practice loving kindness, metta, we spread it throughout the universe, starting with ourselves, with pure, selfless love without discrimination. We also develop compassion, karuna, for those less fortunate, and work actively and tirelessly to alleviate their suffering. Then we rejoice, mudita, in the happiness that others achieve, because doing so helps us eliminate feelings of envy and harmful intentions. But the highest among these positive beneficial states is equanimity, upekkha, where the mind is no longer affected by any positive or negative feelings, becoming extremely calm, clear, and free from defilements. Those who live in these four states can be said to be living in heaven on earth. Of course, those who live in opposite states such as greed, anger, and delusion are living in hell on this earth. People often create imaginary heavens according to their worldly needs. Long ago, those living in deserts also had their beliefs about heaven and hell. They described heaven as a place where they could enjoy beautiful waterfalls. For them, heaven provided the things, water, coolness, greenery, that they lacked in this life. For Native Americans, heaven was a delightful hunting ground where they could hunt any animal they needed. This was common sense because they had difficulty hunting enough animals to sustain their daily needs. When Tibetans experienced winter in the Himalayas, the suffering they faced was described as hell. For them, warmth or fire was heaven. Now I think you can understand how people have created images of heaven and hell according to their worldly needs. Our instinct is to seek what is good and avoid what is bad. In this sense, we can say that the Buddha did not deny the existence of a heavenly realm and hell. But unlike some who believe that heaven and hell are specific locations, Buddhism considers heaven and hell to be different states of existence. Buddhism categorizes all forms of existence in this world and beyond into 31 states, grouped into different categories. The first of these groups includes hell, hungry ghosts and animals, beings in various states of suffering. Then there is human life, 6 types of heavenly realms where beings enjoy more sensory pleasures than others. But the devas, or beings of light, in the celestial realms focus more on pleasure than on spiritual development. Among these realms, being born as a human is the most desirable. Because of the fortunate development of a higher mind and the opportunity to observe both suffering and pleasure as well as death, decay and disease, humans can understand more deeply the truth of the Buddhist teachings. All other religions talk about heaven and say it is eternal or everlasting. But Buddhism does not agree with the belief that there is an eternal heaven for humans to enjoy their pleasures forever, because everything is impermanent. Conversely, according to Buddhism, there are 6 types of heavenly realms, devaloka. Their way of life and the pleasures they enjoy are much higher than in the human realm. However, even though they enjoy sensory pleasures to the maximum, they are not free from greed, anger, jealousy, and self-concern. Buddhism says that being born in one of the heavenly realms is due to the good karma accumulated in their previous human lives. Rebirth occurs in different forms of existence, depending on their own karma, not influenced by any supernatural being. But no one can stay in these realms forever because their good karma is limited, and when it is exhausted, they must turn according to the accumulated karma. Therefore, Buddhism says that heaven and hell are not eternal places where beings can enjoy or suffer forever. Many scholars, philosophers, scientists, rationalists, and great thinkers also disagree with the belief in an eternal existence. The famous Western philosopher Julian Huxley ridiculed this belief by saying, How can we believe that there is an eternal hell created by a God to punish beings forever for a mistake they made? How can they justify this? Give the poor man another chance to try again. How can a God condemn someone forever in this way? There are many ways in which naive people are turned into slaves to their religious beliefs by the threat of punishment in hell. Let's consider some of these ways. Some people believe that going to the places of worship of other religions or showing respect to the founders of those religions is a sin, and because of that, they will be condemned to hell. How can those people commit a sin when they have done nothing to harm others and have never polluted their minds with envy, anger, or any other evil thoughts? So how can their leaders justify the argument that they have committed a sin and therefore must be condemned to hell? If they say their God is angry if his followers go and respect another God or the founder of another religion, how can they claim that this God is merciful and tolerant? Could it be said that this God is as jealous as an ordinary human being? They also teach that those who live a respectable life by keeping all virtues and moral qualities and serving others in every possible way will have no chance of being born in heaven if they do not believe in their God. Is it reasonable to say that no matter how people behave, they are guaranteed to go to heaven if they just believe in God and pray to Him? People conquered by such irrational teachings, according to which their religious sentiments are shaken, change their religion that they have been practicing for many generations and switch to another religion, believing that they can be miraculously saved. They do not bother to think whether these assertions are practical and reasonable. This is why the sick and the elderly are often converted at the time of near death. Not knowing the true nature of existence, they fear death, so they are easily persuaded that they can go to heaven if they accept a specific religion and that their sins for some reason will disappear. They may think that their lives are at the mercy of a God and they have no way to decide their future lives by their own efforts and understanding. Buddhism teaches us how to decide our future lives through our own good and bad thoughts, words, and actions without depending on any external factors, and also take responsibility for our lives with certainty. An American rationalist who lived a long time ago once said that according to his observations, he preferred hell to heaven because of the concept maintained by some religious leaders that all intellectuals, scholars, scientists, psychologists, free thinkers, including the Buddha, are in hell because they do not believe in God. He said that in that case, if he happened to go to heaven, he would feel lost in a place where there were no intellectuals, and heaven would be a very dark place. To the extent that he worried, heaven was a place only for those who wanted to enjoy worldly pleasures without using their brains. Buddhism certainly does not view an afterlife in heaven as the most important goal of life, or as a place where people can have eternal rest. Beyond this earthly life, there is a classification of beings known as devas, deities, who experience peace, relaxation, and live a very long life in heavenly realms. They are known as Brahmas in the 16th realm of Brahma worlds. They have significantly reduced their craving for sensory pleasures and experience more peace developed through their past lives, especially through meditation. Although this existence is not eternal, they are considered eternal due to their long lifespan. This is why some religious leaders still believe that achieving the state of Brahma is eternal. The Buddha pointed out that it is not so. 4 other realms of Brahma life are also mentioned in Buddhism. These beings exist with consciousness but without a visible physical body. Another state of Brahma life is the existence of a physical body but without any awareness in their minds. They do not experience physical and mental burdens for a long period, far surpassing the peace experienced by other Brahmas, and their life cycle is also longer than what other beings achieve, lasting millions of years. However, these states of existence are impermanent according to the Buddha. All these states are the 31 realms of existence explained in Buddhist scriptures. This concept is close to Indian cosmology. However, from a Buddhist perspective, we understand them as states of the human mind. They vary according to the development or degradation of the human mind. They do not manifest in coarse or physical forms. Additionally, it is clear that there are different beings existing in different forms according to the environment, factors, and other influences. They exist in different world cycles, depending on their mental power, and experience pleasure or suffering according to the good or bad karma they accumulated in their past lives. The following story can explain how Buddhists understand heaven and hell. A monk once preached about heaven and hell. Some listeners who did not believe in heaven and hell challenged the monk, saying that he was misleading naive people by talking about realms that do not exist. A very angry man loudly demanded the monk to prove the existence of these two realms. Looking at the man's angry appearance, the monk said, "Don't you know that you are currently in hell?" The man immediately understood the concept of hell as expressed by the monk. Then with a smiling face, he asked again, "All right, now tell me where heaven is." The monk calmly replied, "You are now in heaven." This simple but meaningful example gives us some ideas about how to use common understanding to realize that we create heaven and hell according to our state of mind. In some families, husbands and wives, parents and children argue every day, crying, complaining, and cursing each other, even though they live in the same house. Sometimes they don't have enough food to eat, proper clothes to wear, or even a place to sleep. Such places can be considered hell on earth. In other cases, although people have enough to live comfortably, their poor state of mind completely disrupts peace and happiness. Therefore, such people have made their lives more miserable due to their anger, narrow-mindedness, jealousy, and selfishness. This is another type of hell that those people create in this very life. Conversely, there are families where people experience peace, happiness, harmony, and contentment due to mutual understanding, patience, and love, even though they are poor. And others who have full material possessions, good health, along with understanding and love for each other. Such people are creating heavenly bliss right here in this world. Heaven and hell described in the scriptures of many religions fit the psychological nature of humans. They know that without rewards and punishments in another life, people would never live a righteous life. Often, descriptions of heaven and hell in this way are effective methods to make people less selfish, serve others, and not harm others for their own benefit. In the past, heaven was described as a place full of sensory pleasures, which the rich and powerful enjoyed in the earthly realm, now becoming rewards for the righteous in this life after death. And torture as punishment in hell was nothing other than the punishments imposed by rulers on criminals who violated peace and order. According to Buddhism, suffering in hell and joy in heaven are not eternal. At the same time, heaven and hell are not defined as specific places where beings experience states of pleasure and pain in all places in the universe, in any physical form, and according to the states of mental peace or suffering. At another level, the belief some hold that all our pleasurable or painful sensations are only experienced in this life is unacceptable to Buddhism. We experience suffering and pleasure as the effects of our bad and good karma, as long as existence or rebirth occurs. By merely praying or worshiping someone, we cannot escape the effects of our evil deeds that we have committed. This is the Buddhist perspective. If someone could forgive all our mistakes, it must be ourselves and not an external entity. According to the Buddha, good and bad actions are created by us, and we are responsible for the purity or impurity of our minds. Therefore, others cannot purify or pollute our minds. Is there any chance for us to overcome or escape bad influences? Yes, it is possible, but not easy. Buddhism does not accept the belief many hold in forgiveness of sins, in worshiping and praying to God for forgiveness, in performing various religious rituals, in sacrificing animals to please deities, and in self-mortification to escape punishment. Such practices are unreasonable from the Buddhist perspective. Is there a practical and reasonable method in the Buddhist context when we realize that our actions are wrong and harmful? Whenever we realize we have done wrong, the first thing we must do is make a strong decision not to commit such evil deeds again. But that alone is not enough. Afterward, we should strive to do as much good as possible by developing kindness, honesty, generosity, and right understanding. Cultivating such good qualities and deeds is accumulating good karma. Mental purity increases, and good karma creates stronger power to strengthen the mind and bring confidence in our future life. When good karma is strong and positive in the mind, the bad karma we have committed previously will gradually diminish, weaken, and become inactive. If death occurs with this dominant state of mind, rebirth will happen in a favorable condition. This explanation helps us understand how we can eliminate the effects of our sins. However, this is not the end of our evil karma, because we cannot easily eradicate it completely. In the process of continuing to accumulate more good karma by serving others and reducing mental impurities, we can overcome the effects of bad karma because good karma can block the effects of bad karma. In this way, we can continue to improve the process of life and strengthen our spiritual development until we achieve sainthood and the ultimate goal. When craving, which determines rebirth, is extinguished, the power of bad karma is automatically eliminated. Only then can we escape the effects of bad karma. Many people believe that heaven and hell are created by God and that those places are prepared. When a preacher talked about creating heaven and earth, someone in the audience asked, "Can I know what God was really doing before he created heaven and earth?" Then the preacher replied, "Do you know during that time, God was creating hell for people who ask such questions? Heaven and hell are important to many people. But this is a concept introduced by ancient religions. When people could not understand how to fulfill their duties as human beings, cultivate certain virtues, protect human dignity, and understand how to behave as cultured individuals, their leaders introduced this belief to make them behave in a good way. They said that if people follow such religious principles, fulfill their duties towards parents, spouses, neighbors, then after death, they can have eternal joy in heaven. That was the only way to persuade people to do good, very similar to training children to do good because they cannot understand or recognize the true necessity of doing good. With children, promising them something they desire is necessary, such as chocolate, candy, or toys. Only then will they pay attention. The Buddha did not choose that viewpoint to introduce the religious way of life. He considered us as mature individuals. He did not use sweet language to tempt us. He knew that we have the ability to understand things, although many of us do not bother to do so. His method was not to promise anything, but to teach people to understand what is right and what is wrong, and the nature of cause and effect. According to him, if we do good only for the purpose of being born in heaven, we are selfish because with that motive, we will not develop virtues such as compassion, sincerity, and understanding, and we will never reduce selfishness and act altruistically. True happiness can only occur when a person completely eliminates the concept of self or I. In a sutta, the Buddha said that those who have worldly happiness are fortunate in family life, but they must wisely use their assets to not develop selfishness. They must be kind enough to share happiness with others. The Buddha did not condemn worldly benefits and happiness, but if we know how to use them, experience joy in the right way, we can achieve heavenly merits while we are here and not only after death. But the physical burdens in the heavenly realm are less than in the human realm. On the other hand, human intellectual abilities are available for spiritual development. Devas do not think about practicing virtuous deeds. Humans are more fortunate in that respect. We have the chance to enrich our understanding. According to Buddhist stories, when Devas encounter some difficulties, they also come to the Buddha for solutions. As humans, we consume the good karma we accumulated in our previous lives. While using it, we can also accumulate as many merits as possible for future life, because we know that this life is not our final life. The continuation of the rebirth process occurs according to our merits, whether we believe it or not, whether we can understand it or not. Devas cannot create new karma like humans. We say that animals are less fortunate, even though they have food and many other things. They are unfortunate because they do not know anything about the destiny of their lives. For them, it is impossible to accumulate merits or have spiritual development. That is why humans can do anything to them through using their human intelligence. Humans capture them, torture them, and kill them at will. Animals do not know that there will be a continuation of life. They do not understand that animal life does not certainly end at the end of that life. The repetition of existence occurs because in the animal's mind, the residual karma of anger, envy, greed, and ignorance developed in past lives is not yet eradicated. These are the main bad forces inherent in every being. Because they do not escape such thoughts, rebirth occurs again. In our case, we have controlled some evil thoughts, but they still exist. We can tame animals by beating, training, and intimidating them. Because of fear, they behave like tamed animals. When they are close to us for some time, they automatically become tame. Similarly, cats, cows, goats, and elephants become docile because they have been with us for many generations. But they still have their animal nature. Although we are humans, many of us do not know how to use our valuable human life. We disregard the opportunities or means we have to cultivate our way of life. We disregard our valuable human life due to our selfishness and deceit. For this reason, the Buddhist teachings are important to pave the way for such ignorant people to think rightly and develop human values. According to the Buddha, human life is more important than life in the 31 other realms of existence. Devas are not superior to humans in virtue and spiritual development. According to Buddhism, being born in the heavenly realm is not desirable, although other religions have described it in such a way to tempt us. In heaven, we spend millions of years enjoying the benefits of past good karma without the opportunity to develop our minds to eliminate the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. Now let's discuss hell. Because many religions exploit the concept of hell to promote their religion. This is a powerful weapon for them to threaten people. There was a time when health authorities in Britain urgently requested religious delegations not to create fear in people's minds by threatening hellfire to introduce their religion, because the health authorities found that many people suffered from mental disorders due to fear of hellfire. Creating fear in people's minds has become an effective method to introduce religion, especially in Asian countries today. They say that the Buddha cannot save you because he was just a human being who died and passed away long ago. They say, why do you pray and worship a person who is no longer here? Our God is the only Savior who can save you because he is living in heaven. Buddhist missionary delegations have never used such tactics to spread Buddhism for over 2,500 years. Buddhists never say that those who do not accept their religion will be condemned to hell. The Buddha's attitude toward other religions is very compassionate and reasonable. Life is easily changeable. When we neglect our lives, decline can easily occur. Then raising it again becomes a big problem. Belief in rebirth is another subject that some missionary congregations use to mock Buddhism. They say that Buddhists will not suffer anymore because their rebirth is merely the prolongation of ultimate liberation by becoming animals, demons, and so on. But those who follow their religion do not become animals or demons but can immediately go to heaven and not stay here to suffer after death. Many people believe what they preach without using common sense. Rebirth occurs not depending on different religious labels, but by how people think, speak, and act with good and evil thoughts. Therefore, our thoughts and actions are responsible for shaping our future life. Whether people have religion or not, it is not an important factor in deciding rebirth. Although the Buddha advised people to maintain their dignity, he did not reject religious principles like commandments or laws. In simple language, he said that if you commit evil deeds, you must face the resulting suffering, either physical or psychological, in this life or the next. You should also consider the nature of pleasure or suffering in different realms of existence, which are introduced by giving them different names such as heaven, hell, ghost world, and animal world. Today, modern science and technology have expanded our knowledge to understand many things in the world and universe that primitive people could not understand. Due to ignorance, they explained life and death in very simple terms, which they later accepted as religious truths or doctrines. We do not know that every day we are shaping heaven and hell according to our way of life, as well as the good and bad influences we experience here and in the next life. This does not mean that Buddhism completely denies belief in a heavenly life or suffering hell after death. But the Buddhist concept of this belief is different from other religions. This means that when we live by cultivating good qualities and virtues through practicing certain religious principles without violating the peace and happiness of others, we can also experience a more pleasant, happy, prosperous, and peaceful life anywhere in the universe after death where life exists. For us, that is heaven. Conversely, if we live our lives by harboring anger, envy, resentment, malice, and other evil thoughts in our minds, we must face the consequences in the form of suffering, either in this life or the next. It will also be difficult for us to have a good rebirth in a good environment to cultivate moral qualities. When life becomes more painful, we see this state of existence as hell. Knowing the true situation in earthly life, the wise try to decide how to live and live peacefully without harming others, and also work to help beings. We want to have a favorable, good, and joyful existence, but our aspirations are very difficult to achieve. The world is not arranged according to our wishes. The formation of this life does not occur just to suit us. The world operates according to its own universal laws and nature. These are fair, whether we are rich or poor, educated or uneducated. As religious people, we can maintain happiness and contentment through this understanding. When difficulties, illnesses, worries, disturbances, and disasters come to us, we should not complain or curse or blame others. We should carefully examine the situation to understand who or what is responsible for all the problems, or if there is anything outside us that can be blamed. Sometimes we have done something wrong. Don't think we are always right and others are wrong. Everyone in this world makes mistakes. We are living in a world where we always encounter collisions, disagreements, conflicts, disasters, unrest, and wars. Therefore, the challenge is to seek peace in a world where disagreements and collisions are happening daily. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who might benefit from it. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button, follow, and turn on the notification bell. This is how you can show your support for me. Once again, thank you very much, and see you in the next videos.